What's going on, everybody? Tello Talk Podcast back again. Today we've got a special one. It is February 24th, 2023, which marks the first day of MLB spring training. It's finally back. Baseball is back, ladies and gents, and I am excited. I don't know about y'all, but I am excited for the MLB season. You know, we're getting to that point. Basketball's getting towards the end of this year, but football's already over. What do we need? We need another sport, and baseball's coming to save us. We got 2 games today, and if you can watch those, it might just be spring training, but it's always fun. But we're gonna have a couple things to talk about today. This may not be the longest episode, but today we're gonna talk about a couple teams in particular. If you don't follow the Instagram, I had a post speaking on my award predictions for the upcoming season in my preseason award predictions and some teams to look out for. So I did a lot of thinking about the MLB season, and last year I thought was a pretty good season. I loved watching it. Loved watching all the players rise. Sadly, unfortunately, watching some players fall, but it was a great season overall. And if you ask me who the season powerhouse is, I still don't know if I can get you an answer. But we're gonna talk about that in relation to last year. The season's powerhouse. There's 4 names I've been seeing a lot. 4 or 5 names is Dodgers, Astros, Yankees, Braves, and Mets. However, I am not going to talk about the Mets today. I will talk about the Mets later on. I will be talking about another team from the NL East today, the Atlanta Braves. But I will start with another National League team, and also the Padres is another name you could see there every once in a while. But we're going to start with one team in the NL West, the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I have 4 teams, including the Dodgers, and then the Astros, Braves, Yankees. These 4 teams are teams that I looked into, did a lot of research, saw what I thought about from last year that coming into this year, and this is basically how I think this season will go for them. And I'm calling this a rise or fall. Do I think this team's going to rise in record or fall in record? And so what I've got here today is for the Dodgers. I don't really like the Dodgers. I'm not a big Dodgers fan. I'm a Red Sox guy. Hurts that we traded Mookie to him and still miss Mookie on the Red Sox every day. But the loss of Trey Turner for the Dodgers was a huge hit for them. Not only on offense with hitting and base running, but also defensively. He's a pretty decent, pretty good defensive shortstop, especially a guy that you can go out there and get the job done for you. But I think his biggest impact was on the base path. He's always been known as one of the fastest guys in baseball. Always got one of those top sprint speeds, 99th percentile last year, right behind, I think, O'Neal Cruz, who was 100th percentile. And it also helps when you get on base as much as him. He posted a 298 average and a 343 on-base percentage this last season, which is honestly not even that good for Trey Turner's career. We've seen him do a lot better in his career, as he led the league 2 years ago in batting average with about a 328 or 320 something, I believe, 318. It was incredible. It was high average. But he was still tied for 4th in the National League this last year with a 298, and that was bad for him. So even if he's having a bad season, he's still at the top of the league, at the top of his league in batting average. And then 343 on-base percentage is another great stat for him to have. The Dodgers, they do have their plans. They plan on moving Gavin Lux to shortstop. Not obviously that good of a player compared to Trey Turner. He's young, however. He'll be very helpful. Gavin Lux has been a guy they've had to be able to put in other spots, put him where they need him. Excuse me. I think Lux will be helpful for that infield. I think he's the best option they have. I don't think they got a better option available. So we'll have to see how Gavin Lux does. I mean, he had some spurts, had some little stretches where he excelled in play, and he played a lot better than you'd expect Gavin Lux to, and kind of fit inside that Dodgers lineup. But I, as much as the loss for Trey Turner was, I just don't see Lux being able to even remotely get close to filling that gap. Unless Gavin Lux has a huge breakout season, then good for him, But I don't see it happening. Another thing about the Dodgers, my big question mark is their vacancy at center field. Not full vacancy, but question of who's going to start. The Dodgers signed David Peralta, left fielder from the Diamondbacks in the offseason, which just pushes more people into that center field role. I believe Trace Thompson played a little bit of left field last year as well, and now he won't be playing left field because David Peralta most likely will be. This is where you think of Chris Taylor, who is this big utility guy for the Dodgers. Looks like the guy they need at center field, but you've got a guy like Trace Thompson who had a very good season down the stretch, who could possibly steal that starting spot from Chris Taylor and honestly be that opening day starter, maybe even. I don't know. I think Chris Taylor. I think Chris Taylor keeps it for now, but Trace Thompson, if he keeps playing the way he did at the end of the season last year, Trace Thompson could overtake that spot, and Chris Taylor could go back to his utility man role. My last point for this Dodgers team, it's kind of a big point, is their rotation. They've got a pitching staff that's been pretty elite in the past couple years. However, they did. They're seeing signs of a little bit of worry. I mean, Trevor Bauer is gotten released. He's a free agent now, and then Walker Buehler is getting surgery. He will not be able to play this year. So it's going to be down to Kershaw, Gonsolin, Urias, Dustin May, and then I can't think of the fifth guy right now. But if I am the Dodgers, I might be a little worried. Kershaw, I mean, he's getting old. He's entering his age 35 season. However, he had a great season last year. He didn't show signs of regression. He had a 2.28 ERA, a .942 WHIP, and a 2.57 FIP. Do I see him keeping elite numbers? Not really. I think Kershaw, he's good, but I feel like Kershaw might have a little bit of a dip. Not too much. I still think he'll have great numbers. I just think for a 35-year-old to be constantly putting a 2.28, I mean, I can't really say that because, Verlander was 39 last year. He had under a 2 ERA, I'm pretty sure, and won the Cy Young. So it's never too late to say that, but I mean, Justin Verlander looked a lot better than Clayton Kershaw did already at age 35. He looked a lot better. Yeah, Verlander had a 1.75 in his age 39 season. That's incredible. That's insane. But I hope to see Kershaw do well. I really don't hope he has regression because he's a great guy, a great player to watch. I love watching him play. But the biggest guy I'm worried about for this team is Tony Gonsolin. He had a phenomenal year last year. But when you look at his stats, he had the 2.14 ERA, a .875 WHIP, but he did have a 3.28 FIP. His FIP was over 1 point higher than his ERA. And what FIP is fielding independent pitching. Because ERA, you got to take into account he's got the whole defense behind him and whatnot. FIP goes to based off of purely what the pitcher does to make sure there's no runs. And he's basically given up one extra run if you don't consider the defense behind him. And obviously that's more of a individual stat than a team stat, because ERA, in my opinion, you look at it, that's got to be more of a team. That's more of a team stat. You look at, this team's average ERA, that's team stat. But FIP is to look at a person, like a personal pitcher. Look at his individual stats. You look at FIP, and that extra point is a little concerning, but it's still out of 3, which is very good. I don't see him doing as well as he did last year. He had an MLB best 94.1% win percentage. He finished 16-1, best record in baseball. I don't see Gonsolin doing it again. I think he'll have a good season for his expectations. He's finally getting able to pitch a good amount of games in the season, but I don't see him doing that again. And the last pitcher for this Dodgers squad I want to talk about is Julio Urias. Urias. Um, in my opinion, he's been a very underappreciated and underrated pitcher in the past couple years. 2 years ago, he led the league with 20 wins. And then this last season was actually third in Cy Young voting behind Corbin Burns and then Sandy Alcantara, who won it. You talked to me about him. 2021, he had a 296, 1.018 whip, and a 313 FIP. And then last year, he had a National League best 216 ERA. Or sorry, he had a National League second best 216 ERA. 0.96 whip, and then a 3.71 FIP was a little concerning to me as well. However, I think Urias, because he's had 2 straight years doing that, I see him doing another year like that. I don't know if it'll be around the high twos, I think he'll have. And then obviously around that one whip he seems to have, and then in the 3 FIPs. For a team, I would not expect him to be in the Cy Young voting once again. I would not be surprised to finish his top 5 if he has another season like that. But for a team like the Dodgers, a team that won 111 games last year, I think losing Trey Turner was such a big, valuable piece to that team. I expect a fall in the total amount of wins. I also expect a top 2-3 finish in the National League, like they always do. But they might get a run for their money. The Padres are a great team in the NL West. I mean, they made a lot of moves. They've done a lot. They didn't even have one of their best players in the postseason. They made the NLCS. So that's something that you should be worried about if you're the Dodgers, is that team behind you. They only won 89 games last year. They're not going to win only 89 games this year. Moving on. We're going to go to the team that I don't have the most about, the team that I despise the most as a Red Sox fan, the New York Yankees. A lot of people looking at this team, they're a top 2, top 3 team in the league. I kind of agree, but they didn't really do much this offseason. They only have 2 new players from their last 40-man roster last year, 2 new ones, which is not a lot. It's not a lot. And they fell short last year. Got swept by the Astros in the ALCS. But the biggest thing for me in this offseason was them being able to re-sign Aaron Judge. A lot of people thought the 2022 AL MVP was going to go somewhere else, like San Francisco, Oakland, maybe even LA, maybe even the Mets or something like that, Seattle, like all these crazy places. And eventually he ended up re-signing. That's what I expected to happen. A lot of people didn't. But that's their biggest thing that they did in this offseason, and that's the biggest thing that they could have done is lock up that top 3 player in baseball. And so the things they did do, however, is that, in my opinion, the biggest one was picking up Carlos Rodon from the Giants, former Giant and White Sox pitcher. He's one of the best lefty pitchers in the league, in my opinion. As long as he gets to stay healthy, they'll be good with him. But he has that problem of staying healthy. And if he can stay healthy, he'll have that rotation of Carlos Rodon, Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez, Frankie Montas when he's healthy. During the meantime, Domingo Germán, Luis Severino. This rotation is going to look very deadly next year if Rodon stays healthy, and even if Frankie Montas recovers correctly from this injury. I think the Yankees have a top 3 rotation in the MLB. But a thing that I see is a problem is their offense, their lineup. They lost Andrew Benintendi. He only played a small amount of games for New York last year, but his departure puts a big gap in the left field spot. They got rid of Joey Gallo at the trade deadline last year. They gave him to the Dodgers. They got Benintendi. Benintendi's no longer there. So what are they going to do? Move Harrison Bader to left field? They're going to put Bader in center and have Judge move back to right, and then the right fielder move to left. Like, it's gonna be a big question. And I mean, Judge had to carry that offense so much towards the end of the season. That's something that I'm a little worried about when it comes to the Yankees. If you're a Yankees fan, I don't think Judge can carry that that lineup again. I think this team is going to go from being known as an offensive team to, yes, they do have Rizzo, Stan, and Judge. Gleyber Torres, if you want to count him, LeMahieu, it showed last year that there were some points where it came down to, is Aaron Judge going to hit a home run in this game? If he doesn't, we're going to lose. Is he going to post 4 RBIs? If he doesn't, we're going to lose. And that's what I'm worried about for next year, especially because they lose a guy like Benintendi, who's known for his contact, known for being able to get on base. I think this team becomes a pitching team more than a lineup team, especially when they've got guys like Michael King and Clay Holmes coming out of the bullpen as well. I'm a little concerned about the Yankees. I don't think that he'll be able to carry that offense, as I've said, and I expect them to fall. They're not going to win 99 games again. They're not. They're not. So that's enough for the Yankees. Move on to the third team. This is the Atlanta Braves. I've got a lot of things to say about the Atlanta Braves. I love this team. I'm not even a Braves fan. I mean, I support them. I watch them. They were my second, third ever Little League baseball team name. So, I always root for them when I can. They're the 2021 World Series champions. They had a much better regular season this last year than they did that championship year, but Philadelphia cut them short in the NLDS. They could have done better in the postseason, but that's not the point. The point is that in this offseason, they did lose a couple big names: Kenley Jansen, Adam Duvall, William Contreras, and then the biggest one, Dansby Swanson. Jansen and Duvall went both to the Red Sox, but in my opinion, the Kenley Jansen departure doesn't really mean much for them. He had a little bit iffy of a end to his season. And they've got a solid bullpen. They've got guys like AJ Minter, Colin McHugh, Tyler Matzek, Nick Anderson, Kirby Yates, and then obviously the guy who's going to be the new closer now, Raisel Iglesias, who they acquired from the Angels during the trade deadline last year. And then Adam Duvall, with the outfielder loss, is mostly really just a depth loss, in my opinion. I think they've already had the idea of Eddie Rosario, Ronald Acuna, and then Michael Harris being that outfield tandem, which is a phenomenal outfield tandem, may I mention. It's insane. And, I really want to spotlight Michael Harris real quick. Michael Harris, he's an absolute stud. He was called up on May 28th last year, and he ended up winning NL Rookie of the Year. And not only did he have phenomenal stats on the defensive side of baseball, Michael Harris, who is known for good defense, put up 7 outs above average, which is incredible for a guy that came out late May, missed a whole month and a half or 2 months of the baseball season, put up 7 outs above average. And then on top of that, we're asking, is his offense going to be able to transition in the majors? It most definitely did. A 297 average, 19 homers, 64 RBIs, and a 136 WRC plus with a nearly 5 WAR at a 4.8. That is an insane rookie season for a guy like Michael Harris. He's a young star alongside Ronald Acuna Jr. and guys like Austin Riley. This team is set. Michael Harris, top 15 in the MVP voting as a rookie last year. I could see this guy winning an MVP in the near future. This will be a great addition. This is a great find and a diamond that the Braves have found. This kid is something special. He is special. But a kid that they did lose, an absolute diamond, is William Contreras. He was a great DH, an all-star DH. They dealed him away to the Milwaukee Brewers in a 3-team trade with Milwaukee and Oakland. But I think it was kind of worth it, honestly. They got Sean Murphy. Sean Murphy, in my opinion, is a top 5 catcher in the league. Who else is a top 5 catcher in the league? Travis d'Arnaud, who they have already. They have 2 top 5 catchers in the Major League Baseball. And now they're going to be able to stay healthy, d'Arnaud was talking about it on a little bit of an interview. He said this is a big move because going down the stretch into the Octobers, the Septembers, Octobers, maybe even Novembers, Both of those guys are going to be healthy because they can take turns. And on top of that, D'Arnaud, who's a pretty decent hitter, can take time at DH over Marcell Ozuna if Marcell Ozuna is having a bad time. That is something that makes that Sean Murphy trade so valuable, despite even already having a great catcher in D'Arnaud. My biggest question, however, for the Braves is the shortstop role with Swanson leaving, going to the Cubs. You look at, there's two names. There's Vaughn Grissom and Orlando Arcia. Last year, Vaughn Grissom played some second base when Arcia and Albies were hurt, and he looked phenomenal. I think he's a great young star. He got called up all the way from Double-A, and I think him and Arcia are going to have a battle for that spot. Arcia had his first ever season where he had an above-average hitting season with a 104 WRC+, just right above average of 100. I think if I'm the Braves, I lean towards Grissom, the young star, being the Swanson replacement. Swanson was a big person to lose, Gold Glover, great player, hit I think 25 home runs last year as well. It's just this team produces a lot of talent, so I think Vaughn Grissom will be a good spot for the shortstop position, and I would not be surprised if we see an MVP come out of this squad when it comes to either Michael Harris, if Ronald Acuna Jr. comes back to himself. But my biggest thing with this team is their MVP caliber seasons that third baseman Austin Riley's given them. It's time to say Austin Riley is elite alongside Arenado, Machado, Devers, and Ramirez. If anybody says that he's not with those guys, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're just not watching baseball. You're watching the wrong stuff. This guy is insane. I mean, he had I think he might have been second in National League in home runs with 38. And that's something that you need in this lineup. You got a lot of guys who can get on base, a lot of guys who can hit, and then you got another guy who can hit like Austin Riley does. It's insane. And this team lost a lot of key assets, but they gained a lot of key assets this offseason. I think this team, surprisingly enough, after winning 101 games last year, I think they win more. I think they win more games. I think they're going to rise. They're going to go up in the ranks, and I honestly think the Braves finish with the best record in the MLB next year. Call me crazy, but they finished with the best record in the MLB. The Atlanta Braves. Now, obviously, I'm not going to finish this without talking about the 2022 World Series champs. So going on without the Astros. They just won it. Beat the Philadelphia Phillies in, I believe, 6 games. But you look at it, they had the big question last year. Who's going to fill up Carlos Correa's spot after he leaves for the Twins? Rookie Jeremy Pena steps up, becomes the shortstop, has himself a memorable season, winning a Gold Glove, ALCS MVP, and World Series MVP, all in 1 year, all in his rookie year, and got second place in AL Rookie of the Year. Voting right behind Julio Rodriguez. But we did see a little bit of a struggling stretch for him. 60-game span from June to August, he had a 216 average and 600 OPS. And the biggest thing for me is what version of him will show up. Is it going to be that MVP, that postseason MVP guy, or is it going to be that June, July, August guy? Because in my opinion, I think it will be that good version of him. Regardless, they've got this really great young star at shortstop. And the two big things that happened for them this offseason, the Astros, is Justin Verlander left for the New York Mets on a 2-year deal worth $86.7 million. This was a big hit for them. However, even though he leaves, this team still has another top 3 rotation in the league. They've got Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Lance McCullers Jr., Luis Garcia, and Jose Urquidy. I can never say his last name. But he has a chance of being traded. So you look at a young guy, 24 years old, named Hunter Brown, who comes in, pitches 20 and a third in the majors this last year, 20 and a third innings, and posts a .89 ERA and has 3 scoreless appearances in the postseason during this World Series run. At a 24-year-old, that is insane. And you look at this guy's mechanics. He has Justin Verlander-esque mechanics. He looks like Justin Verlander out there. He is young Verlander, and they lost the old guy. They get the young guy. So I think, honestly, obviously, I think Hunter Brown. He's not Verlander-esque yet. He's not Justin Verlander, but he has that capability. And with Jose Urquidy, he's rumored to be traded. I mean, last year he was rumored to be traded for Wilson Contreras. Obviously, that did not happen. Contreras is now a Cardinal. But I see him getting traded, and then Hunter Brown probably getting called up because this kid's a stud, and then this rotation gets even better. Other thing for them was Yuri Gurriel left the Houston Astros this offseason. But what did the Astros do? They upgraded. They signed Jose Abreu, lifelong Chicago White Sox, a guy who's usually always hitting around 300, hitting 100 RBIs every year, and then usually with a lot of power. Had a little bit of a down year with only 15 home runs this last season, and a little bit of a down year when it came to RBIs, about 75. I think he gets his mojo back. He's getting a little old. He's going to get his mojo back. He's a great pickup for this Astro team. He hit 19 in that 60-game season where he won an AL MVP, which was only, believe it or not, 3 seasons ago. So you can't really say, he's going to drop down that easily. Obviously, it's happened before with guys like Cody Bellinger, Christian Yelich. But Jose Abreu is not going to do that. I think he'll be okay. But overall, for the Astros, the biggest thing I have to say for them is anybody who still won't give up the fact that they had their cheating scandals, the 2017, 2019, it doesn't matter anymore. They've proved it. This team wins games, and they will keep winning games. No matter what you say, this team is going to win games. I don't see a rise in this team. I don't see a fall in this team. I think they win around that 100, 106, 105, 104 mark again. This team is good, and Dusty Baker's proved that his team, his squad that he's got in Houston is a proven winner team. And that's what I've got to say about those 4 teams. I've got 2 little sections real quick. And then we're going to be done here. But I've got a couple teams to look out for. Is 4 teams here. I'm going to start with the National League team. Only one National League team. We've got the San Diego Padres. This team is absolutely loaded. That's all I got to say. After an NLCS appearance without one of their best players in Fernando Tatis. Yeah, that's his name, right? Damn, I have forgot about his name for a second. Yeah, Tatis. Be ready for this dangerous squad. It could take number 1 in the NL West. I think maybe even number 1 in the NL. Obviously, I think the Braves are going to do that. But this team is going to be solid. They could make a World Series appearance this year. And as for the other 3 teams, we got 3 AL teams. The Chicago White Sox. They went 81-81 last year. They lost Jose Abreu, but I think they've got enough guys still where if they stay healthy, that's their biggest problem. They can never stay healthy. If they stay healthy, they will retake that AL Central crown that they lost to Cleveland last year. I think Cleveland's a good team, but I think Chicago's an even better team if they stay healthy. They've got the pitchers. They've got, in my opinion, the AL Cy Young for this next year in Dylan Cease. They've got guys like Tim Anderson, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, Yohan Makata. They've got guys. It's just, can they stay healthy? Obviously, they don't have A.J. Pollock anymore because he's now, as I'm going to talk about them in a second, in Seattle. But I think Chicago could do that. Another team I could see is Baltimore Orioles. They had a great season last year, finished over 500. I don't see them winning the AL East. Obviously, I see the Yankees doing that again. But don't be surprised if this team makes a playoff push, makes a playoff run. They have a lot of young guys. My favorite player in baseball, Adley Rutschman especially. They have a lot of potential to cause a lot of damage, make the wild card cause damage in there. And so look out for the Orioles. And then last team, my biggest team I'm on, Seattle Mariners. I think they are so good. They made great offseason moves. They got a great young squad. They got Teoscar Hernandez, Colton Wong. Obviously, they got Luis Castillo at the deadline last year. And then they got A.J. Pollock as well. Those are just a couple names to list. And then obviously they've got, in my opinion, one of the best players in baseball already, Julio Rodriguez at center field. He is a young, talented player, a guy that you go out there and he's a 5-tool player. He plays defense. He can hit. for contact. He can run. He can power hit. He can play everywhere if you need him to. This guy is an absolute stud. I think he's a superstar. He not even in the making. He's already a superstar. Julio Rodriguez could be that guy that helps Seattle lead them to get out of their whole playoff droughts and whatnot as they broke that last year. I think this team could even possibly win the AL West. They could compete with Houston. And those are my four teams that you need to look out for, and then we'll go to awards. I'm just going to list who I say for awards. Obviously, we'll come back later in the year, see what I said, and then say what I say now. We'll start with Rookie of the Year in the American League. I think it's a no-brainer, Gunnar Henderson. For the couple games that he came up last year, he looked phenomenal. I think he's going to be phenomenal for the Orioles. For the NL Rookie of the Year, Kadai Senga. I'm going with the Japanese import. Kadai Senga. I think he's got some disgusting stuff, absolutely nasty stuff. He'll do great. For Cy Young Awards, I'm going to go National League is going to be Max Fried. I think Max Fried's going to have himself a year. And Max Fried will win the Cy Young Award. As for the AL Cy Young, I have Dylan Cease winning the AL Cy Young Award. I think he's also got some disgusting stuff. He's probably got the dirtiest knuckle curve in Major League Baseball. He's going to be something special this year. I had him winning it until Verlander started popping off towards the end of the season last year, but I have him winning it this year. As for Manager of the Year in the National League, I've got Brian Snitker, the manager for the Atlanta Braves. Obviously, I said the Braves are going to have the best record in the league, in my opinion. So I'm going to give it to the Braves. And then for AL Manager of the Year, it's Scott Servais. Scott Servais. And the reason I say Scott Servais is going to win it is because I think I'm very high on the Mariners. I think the Mariners go out there. They won 92 games this year. I think they could possibly reach 100. Call me crazy, but I think the Mariners reach over 100 games. This team is just good. It's something that I love watching. I love watching that team play. I watch them play a lot. It's nuts, and I think he's a big reason to it because he can manage a team well. And we'll move on to the last one, MVPs. NL MVP, AL MVP. My NL MVP is none other than Juan Soto, the best overall hitter in Major League Baseball by a mile. I mean, this dude can do anything. He hits baseballs that nobody else could hit. And then for AL MVP, this might be a shocker to some people. For me, it's not. It's Julio Rodriguez. Julio Rodriguez is an absolute superstar. I love this dude. He's so good. He's a guy that can get home runs, get on base, steal bases. He's just the all-around player, the five-tool player. And obviously, if you ask me, who do you think is Mr. Baseball? You're going to say Mike Trout or something like that. In the next couple of years, Mr. Baseball is going to be Julio Rodriguez because this guy is already being considered a top 15, top 10 player, and he's only played one full season in baseball. He's an absolute stud. He's going to win AL MVP, and I'm calling it right now. That's going to be it for me today. This has been a good episode. Glad to see baseball back. Make sure to watch your spring training. Be ready for this season. It's going to be a great season this year. We've got a lot of great things happening. But I appreciate everybody for listening throughout the whole thing. That's going to be it for me today. I'll see y'all next time where we talk more baseball. I'm out.